to having an excess deaths inquiry. And sadly, unbelievably, we've actually got some of the worst outcomes on areas like cancer care, heart disease in the developed world. And that is an absolute outrage. No one's listening to what the Tories say anymore, frankly. We just want a general election, and that's what we're focused on. We're focused on the general elections. Yes, there are the locals, but the truth is the country wants a general election. But there's no answers from the Labour Party, really, on healthcare. Once again, they're betraying decent working people. Whereas Reform, we have a bold, ambitious plan. We're the only party that says, right, we're going to get to 0 waiting lists in 2 years. Some of you might say that's impossible. I say stop being so weak and pathetic. Yes, it's challenging, but we need a national goal that the country goes for. The staffing crisis. The NHS is losing people all the time, struggling to attract people. Well, the way to retain and attract people is to say, actually, right, anybody on the front line of patient care, in healthcare or social care, then you'll have 0 basic rate income tax for 3 years. That is a significant increase in the net pay. We first touched on this just over a year ago. We would have sorted out all of these strikes, but the government ignored us. That'll retain and attract talent. The other thing that we need is we've got to bring in serious logistics experts from the likes of the Amazons, the FedExes of this world, from the military, to sort out the issues, the lack of productivity, the blocking all the way through hospitals, in order to get many more operations done 7 days a week, not 4.5 days a week. The second key thing after dealing with the staffing crisis is that actually we've got to use the significant available independent healthcare capacity. The NHS needs to acquire millions of operations and appointments from the independent sector. And guess what? Where there's money involved, capacity will rapidly grow, and that's what will happen. What we're talking about here, to get to 0 waiting lists in just 2 years, is about a 20% increase in the number of appointments and the number of operations. Many businesses achieve that every year. And I'm saying to all of us, I'm saying we can do that within healthcare. But actually we need a grown-up discussion about how we operate healthcare in this country in the future. Do you remember in previous general elections, you get that pathetic whining from the Labour Party, oh, 24 hours to save the NHS. For God's sake, grow up, right? What we actually need to say is, if you can afford to pay a bit more, then we'd like to encourage you morally to pay a bit more. And the way to do that is to actually incentivise people through the tax system. So if you can afford to pay a bit more, we'll give you tax relief on private health insurance, on self-pay, because what that will do is significantly ease the pressure, reduce the demands on the NHS, so that actually all of us will get better, faster care for the future. This is the way to transform the way that healthcare is delivered in the United Kingdom. And it's only Reform UK that once again has the courage to take on this debate that previously none of the main parties dare talk about. Well, we're going to talk about it because we're the only party that has a clear plan to sort this mess out. Now, talking of plans, what's the Labour plan? Well, the truth is they have a secret plan. I think we might have a picture on the screen here of their secret plan, which is they have a tax bombshell. You know how the Labour is sort of, their one big plan is they want to put VAT on school fees. Well, their secret plan that they daren't tell anybody about is that they want to put VAT on all independent healthcare. Yes, that is their VAT tax bombshell on healthcare. And what would that do? It would do just the same as what it's going to do with schools. It'll increase the pressure on the NHS, not ease the pressure. That's why it's an absolute outrage. That's why they've got no real credible plan. Oh, I nearly forgot. Wes Streeting, he must have heard what our conference was about this morning. because he wrote a few lines in a daily newspaper this morning, and he said that, yes, they need to use the independent sector a bit more. Well, he allocated about £1 billion to it. He did interestingly say, he said that actually the NHS needs reform. That's the only thing that he said that is correct. I think Keir Starmer said that as well, actually. But you're not going to do that if you put VAT on healthcare. They have no plans. Wes Streeting ambition, he said it'll take a decade to sort out healthcare, to make it fit for purpose. We haven't got time to wait a decade, Wes. We're going to do it in 2 years. That's the difference between your weak ambition and our robust, strong, rapid ambition. Now, actually, yes, it's going to take a bit of extra money, but we're not going to give it to the bungling NHS bureaucrats. The cost of the staffing, the extra staffing, the tax relief, we estimate is about £5 billion. The extra capacity that the NHS buys from the independent sector and more productivity working 7 days a week within the NHS, that's about £7 billion. And then the tax relief on independent healthcare that will grow rapidly, and thank heavens for that, because we want employers to give more private health insurance to many, many more workers. Well, that'll be about £3 billion, bit of contingency. You get to about £17 billion. Well, you might say, Richard, where on earth are you going to find that from? Well, I've got news for you. It's actually quite easy, you see. No one's been told about the true cost of net zero. The National Grid said it was £3 trillion. The OBR, Office for Budget Responsibility, I call them the Office for Incompetent Forecasting, but there we are. They say it's about £1.4 trillion. The Climate Change Committee say it's about £50 billion a year and rising. Well, obviously, we've been a bit cautious. We say it's about £30 billion a year. So we have a choice in this country, it seems to me, a pretty clear choice. Do we want zero waiting lists in 2 years and to keep them there? That's the reform choice. Or do we want net zero CO2 emissions in 25 years? That is the Labour choice. So what we're actually seeing is that the Labour Party, supposedly the party of the working people, the working class, they're quite happy for people to be poorer, to be less healthy, because they are on the side of the eco-zealots who want zero CO2 emissions in 25 years. A Labour Party that was quite happy to allocate £28 billion to their ridiculous green agenda that would have achieved nothing. But they're only now prepared to allocate £1 billion to reform in healthcare. That tells you the priorities of this Labour Party. That tells you why they are not fit, frankly, to be in charge of our healthcare system. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why actually Britain needs reform. Thank you very much. Now, I think the live stream is turned off and the broadcasts, which means that it's just all of us, which means I can take some questions from whoever would like to ask. Who's going to be brave enough to be the first question? Henry? Sorry, the lady in red. It's like a Christa Burr song.
Hi, Mario Rohrer from Sky News. A good question for you. You say Labour has betrayed working class, but your background is anything but. How do you expect working class people to resonate with you, to trust with you, when many were saying you are untouchable?
Oh, it's a great question. And yes, I've been very lucky in life. But actually, that's why I care so much, because we've got to sort out healthcare as well as many other issues. And, you heard from Lee earlier talking about the mine workers' pension money. I actually think that decent, ordinary working people, they don't care who's in charge. They just want them to do a competent, robust, courageous job and get stuff done, make things happen. People want action, not waffle and words. And people want strong leadership. And that, I believe, is what Reform UK delivers. And it's not